This is Matthew Cratter from Trady University, and today I want to talk about helicopter Ben bashing Bitcoin. We got these headlines that Ben Bernanke, who's the old head of the Federal Reserve, doesn't see any value in Bitcoin. When I saw this headline, the only thing I could think was dinosaur doesn't see any value in mammals. And I was reminded of this meme where Bitcoin is coming for the central banks, for the arms dealers, for Wall Street, for the cantillionaires, and for the economists and central bankers like Ben Bernanke. Now, the reason he's called Helicopter Ben is this idea of dropping free money out of helicopters, which was a thought experiment that was part of his famous 2002 paper that he put out. This was before he was actually head of the Federal Reserve. He was a governor. And the title of this paper was Deflation, Making Sure It Doesn't Happen Here. And there's a really interesting passage from it that I wanted to read to you guys. This is from that paper by Bernanke. Like gold, US dollars have value only to the extent that they are strictly limited in supply. This is an amazing admission from a central banker to say this, because you've heard so many times that printing money doesn't do anything, etc. We've heard Neil Kashkari say the Fed has an unlimited amount of money, but here's an admission that they understand this. When you print a lot of money, it destroys the value of the US dollar, and this is their main job over time. Bernanke goes on to say, but the US government has a technology called a printing press, or today it's electronic equivalent, that allows it to produce as many US dollars as it wishes at essentially no cost. By increasing the number of US dollars in circulation, basically the government can reduce the value of the dollar in terms of goods and services. That's equivalent to causing inflation. And so he concludes that under a paper money system, a determined government and central bank can always generate higher spending and hence positive inflation. This is when the US was still worried about deflation. It turned out to have really the opposite problem over time. And in this way, Helicopter Ben really is the father or the godfather of all these central bank money printing economists. If you're finding this video helpful so far, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. But the other question I wanted to ask Ben Bernanke is, why in the world would anyone listen to his predictions? He's predicting Bitcoin's going to go nowhere. Why in the world would anyone want to listen to this guy? He's very famous for, in May of 2007, saying that the impending collapse of the US housing market wasn't going to have any effect on the economy. He was talking specifically about the subprime sector, or the more risky mortgages. He's very famous for saying this, being quoted in May of 2007. We believe the effect of the troubles in the subprime sector on the broader housing market will be limited, and we do not expect significant spillovers from the subprime market to the rest of the economy or to the financial system. This was his prediction. So what happened next? Stocks and housing each went down 50% in the US, and the whole US banking system almost went under. So when Bernanke says that Bitcoin's underlying value is to do ransomware, and he makes these other critiques, I think we can answer him, and that's what I wanted to do in the rest of this video. So he says he has basically the common man's FUD. He doesn't I think he doesn't steel man his arguments. He does a lot of straw man arguments, but I'll still answer them briefly here, because there still are people who are concerned when central bankers criticize Bitcoin and as if they had some special insight into it. But here are Bernanke's critiques of Bitcoin, and here are my responses. So he says Bitcoin is too volatile to be used as money. And I would agree, but Bitcoin is an emerging money. It hasn't arrived where it is yet. Stocks like Amazon and Apple used to be extremely volatile. Then they went through a period where they were much less volatile, and now they're becoming volatile again. But this is the thing. Bitcoin is an emerging money. It's an emerging store of value. It's an emerging medium of exchange. And you have the situation where there are literally hundreds of trillions of US dollars worth of value outside of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is currently securing about $560 billion worth of value. So even a small amount of those hundreds of trillions of outside money going into or out of Bitcoin has the ability to move the price a lot. But Bitcoin has been doing a very good job of securing value. Has the price of it been going up over the past 13 years? Clearly, the price has even been going up over the past few years. Has Bitcoin become much less volatile over time? It definitely has, believe it or not. It used to be much more common you could get a 50% drawdown in a single day. Now it takes months and months. Here's another Bernanke's critiques. Bitcoin is worthless. It's even more worthless than gold, which of course central bankers don't like, because at least gold has practical uses like electronics and filling cavities. The example that Bernanke gives is filling cavities. My answer would be Bernanke definitely knows better than this. He is an economics professor. He knows the difference between a monetary good and a regular industrial good or commodity. And so this is, again, a very much of a straw man argument. If you look into it, about 90% of the value of gold comes not from its industrial usage, not from industrial demand for it, but from its value as a monetary good, either its value as a monetary good as held by central banks or as held by people who use it as a form of savings. For example, a lot of the jewelry in India, where you have these heirlooms and this jewelry that's passed on from generation to generation. And it clearly, it serves an ornamental purpose, but it also serves a very strong store of value purpose. And this is why it's a nice wedding gift in India and in many other cultures as well. So there's this huge percentage of gold that comes of its value that comes from its demand, from demand for gold as a store of value, as a monetary good. And if gold lost this monetary premium, its price would probably go down 90%, maybe 80%, but 90% would take it from $1,800 an ounce down to $180 an ounce. Monetary goods are not regular commodities. Gold is this really weird animal because it's part commodity, part monetary good. But the best monetary goods would not have their pricing contaminated by industrial supply and demand forces. So for example, gold, let's say that gold goes up in price. Is it going up because we have inflation, or is it going up because there's a lot more iPhones there are a lot more iPhones in the world and a lot more other electronics using it? We don't really know. To the extent that it's mostly a monetary good, we can infer that it's inflation, but this is an example of a monetary good that's contaminated by its industrial use. The nice thing about Bitcoin is it's a pure monetary good. Bernanke's next critique is that Bitcoin is not good for anything except ransomware. And again, this is another straw man argument. It's not a steel man argument. I would say that being able to send value, even billions of dollars worth of value, to anyone in the world in a completely permissionless manner in just 10 minutes or even less than a second if you're using the Lightning Network, this is surely worth something. Just like being able to send an email instantly to anyone in the world is a lot nicer than having to send a mail by the U.S. Postal Service or other postal service. Bitcoin is an open network, as we say. Anyone can use it for anything. It can be used for good things. It can be used for bad things like ransomware. And the nice thing is no one gets to tell you what is a good use of it and what is a bad use of it. It's not like the US dollar isn't used everywhere in the world by criminals anyway. So this is quite hypocritical because briefcases of US dollars and bags of US dollars is still the preferred way for criminals to do business. And this isn't an argument against using the US dollar. The fact is the US dollar is a global reserve currency, or it appears to still be. And so you have good people using it and you have bad people using it. And the nice thing about Bitcoin is the government or the banking system can't turn off your account just because they don't like your politics. This is something that can happen with traditional US dollar banking accounts. You can just ask Russia how this works. They have their FX reserves confiscated and frozen. Bitcoin, I know some people in the audience will now be saying, well, Bitcoin's really slow compared to these other cryptocurrencies. The thing is, you have to compare it to other neutral bearer assets like gold. Bitcoin is incredibly fast for a decentralized bearer asset. So don't compare it to Solana. Don't compare it to a VC coin that's highly centralized, or a scam coin like XRP that was issued and controlled by a single corporation. Bitcoin is decentralized and neutral, and there's nothing like it. Not even Ethereum has this neutrality or this decentralization, as we saw Vitalik admit last week. So these other cryptocurrencies, they can be very fast. They can be much faster than Bitcoin, but they're not neutral. They're not decentralized bearer assets, and they will be unable to withstand very strong censorship and political pressure, unlike Bitcoin will be able to. Finally, Bernanke's critique, Bitcoin is not money because you can't buy groceries with it. Well, the answer to this is very easy. Gold is clearly money, but you can't buy groceries with it either. Part of the reason for this is just that gold is very bulky to carry around. It's hard to subdivide, but also it's because central bankers don't want you to be able to use gold to buy groceries, and this is why the US dollar was moved off of the gold standard. But this is also fairly disingenuous of Bernanke. because you can buy Bitcoin. You can buy lots of things using Bitcoin, especially if you're in El Salvador. You can buy fruit from a fruit cart. You can buy coffee. And now Strike is partnering with Shopify, Blackhawk, and NCR. I'll link to this video below to allow merchants all over the world to accept Bitcoin payments over the Bitcoin Lightning Network. So soon you're going to be able to buy anything with Bitcoin. Be able to go to McDonald's or Starbucks and pay using Bitcoin just like you can do in El Salvador. So again, this is like a guy in the mid 1990s saying the internet's useless because I can't do this or that with it. I can't stream videos with it. Everything is on its way. Technology takes time. It gets built in layers. And just as I've seen the internet built over my lifetime, we're seeing the Bitcoin ecosystem build out over our lifetimes. And this is part of what making a prediction means. Bernanke looks around and he doesn't see Bitcoin being used everywhere. Well, this isn't how you make predictions, by looking at the current state of the world. You try to extrapolate where things are working. You can look at the growth of the Bitcoin network from a $5 million network to a $500 billion network. And you can see the vector, you can see the direction of its development. And if you want to steel man an argument, you're not going to be saying something is not going to happen because it hasn't happened already. People always said, I remember in the late 90s and early 2000s, that you'd never be able to do video on the internet, and this was one of its big flaws. Of course, YouTube figured out a way to do it. Back in the old days, you had to let a video load for about an hour before you watched it. But we got broadband, we got streaming services like Netflix and YouTube, and these things got figured out. The important point was that the internet was incredibly revolutionary. It was the foundation for so many things. And this is why idiot economists like Ben Bernanke and Paul Krugman miss these things. Paul Krugman made the famous prediction in the 90s that the internet would not amount to being anything more important than the fax machine. But this is what happens when you listen to Princeton economists for trying to figure out what the future is going to be. Economists are not futurists. They don't even understand the past, so you can't even expect them to understand the future. So when Ben Bernanke says he doesn't see any value in Bitcoin, I just want to turn around and say, I actually don't see any value in people like Ben Bernanke, in these parasites, in these rent seekers who go from a cushy, tenured corner office at Princeton to a cushy corner office at the Fed and cause a huge amount of damage in the process. I never voted for Ben Bernanke or any other single central banker. I never opted into their system. I never asked for the system. And I never asked to have the money in my pocket debased by an armchair economist from Princeton. Why do we give people like this so much power? This is the insanity of our current situation. And I think our descendants really will think we were insane to let the value of our money rest in the hands of maybe 12 people, the FOMC, the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee. Why do we let these people have so much power over our money? Bitcoin is attacked by people like Ben Bernanke because Bitcoin threatens their business. It threatens the biggest business in the world, which is the business of the fiat money monopolists. So I would say to Ben, cry harder, Ben. Bitcoin is coming for you and your buddies. You're on the wrong side of history here. Your arguments are absurd today, and they will seem even more absurd in 10 years or 100 years. And this is what you're going to be remembered for. You're going to be remembered for your disgusting money printing, and you're going to be remembered for not having the foresight to understand Bitcoin. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.